Christmas specials are an interesting phenomenon because while they tend to be cheery and full of joy, they often have a sad undertone or plotline that is used to drive the meaning of Christmas forward. Well, it looks like Hey Arnold got the memo when making their Christmas special, Arnold's Christmas, because it turned out to be one of the saddest episodes in the entire series, and that's saying something. But what exactly made this episode so shocking and real? Well, it all started with an all-too-familiar Christmas tradition, Secret Santa, and Arnold taking the true meaning of gift-giving to heart. Due to the holidays, all the kids were excited to not be in school, because winter break had officially started. More importantly, Christmas was right around the corner, and because of that, Helga and Phoebe were discussing their favorite holiday traditions. While Phoebe enjoyed the way the decorations changed the city, Helga was more excited about the gifts that she was going to get. And on top of her wish list was a pair of Nancy Spumoni signature snow boots. Sadly for Helga, they were popular boots, and all the stores in the area had already sold out. As Helga and Phoebe discussed this sad reality, the episode panned over to Arnold and Gerald, who were also talking about gifts while they exited a store. Arnold and Gerald were talking about the presents that Gerald was going to give his family for Christmas, and when he learned that Gerald had only picked out ties to give everyone, Arnold explained the importance of a well-thought-out gift. He claimed that a gift should be personal to whomever it's for with a meaning behind it. Now, remember this advice because this wonderful idea would end up causing Arnold a lot of heartache. Arnold and Gerald hung out and talked for a little longer before parting ways, with Arnold returning to the boarding house. Meanwhile, Helga, seeing Arnold, began to focus on getting him the perfect gift. But there will be more on that later. Back at his home, Arnold and the other residents of the boarding house gathered around for Secret Santa and were forced to redraw names after Oscar tampered with the original batch of names. After redrawing the names, Arnold discovered that he had pulled Mr. Wynn's name from the hat. Mr. Wynn was one of Arnold's neighbors in the boarding house, and as the child set off to get him the perfect gift, I don't think he could imagine what he would discover. It was actually Gerald who told Arnold that he should just ask Mr. Wynn what he wanted for Christmas. Arnold thought this was a great idea, but do you remember what Mr. Wynn wanted for Christmas? Because I firmly believe that Arnold didn't expect reuniting a war-torn family to be on his list of gifts to get. But that's sort of what Mr. Wynn wanted, even though he didn't ask for it. I want to make that clear. Mr. Wynn in no way asked Arnold to help him reunite with his family. In fact, he had no idea that Arnold would even go looking. The only reason Arnold heard his story was because he was trying to ask Mr. Wynn what he wanted for Christmas without letting it slip that Arnold was his Secret Santa. You see, as Arnold and his neighbor were talking, he would soon learn the story of Mr. Wynn's long-lost daughter. According to the episode, it all started about 20 years ago, when Mr. Wynn was still living in South Vietnam. He lived there with his daughter Mai, and despite his hope that they wouldn't have to get involved, the war in northern Vietnam continued to get closer and closer to their village. Mr. Wynn realized that he had no choice but to leave his home with his daughter in hopes of a better life. It was also at this point that the United States had supposedly sent helicopters to evacuate as many citizens as they could. However, by the time Mr. Wynn and Mai made it to one, there wasn't much room. According to the soldiers on the helicopter, there was only room for one more person. Mr. Wynn looked at his daughter as he thought for a moment, but knowing that their current home would soon succumb to the war, he did the hardest thing he'd ever have to do. He handed his daughter over to the man on the helicopter, and she was taken with them back to the United States. Now, here's where the story continues into heartbreak. The show doesn't make it clear what Mr. Wynn was doing for nearly 20 years, but he apparently wasn't able to immigrate to America for almost 2 decades. When he was finally able to immigrate, he made sure to specifically move to Hillwood because that was where the helicopter that he put his infant daughter on was heading. That said, with all the time he had spent in the city, he still hadn't been able to find and reunite with his daughter. In reality, that's all he really wanted. Mr. Wynn wanted to be able to see his daughter and know that she was happy and safe. Now, Arnold being the type of person he was, he knew that he needed to help reunite his neighbor with his daughter. But do you think he could have ever realized how hard doing that would actually be? Oddly enough, finding Mr. Wynn's daughter Mai may not have been the most elusive present that Arnold would end up looking for. You see, the episode continued with Arnold and Gerald as they tried something pretty smart. Even I wouldn't have thought to do it. They went to the government records office. Their plan was to look for Mai through the city records and find her to reunite her with her father. That turned out to be easier said than done because they were stopped by Mr. Bailey, the city archivist. Mr. Bailey wasn't willing to help the boys at all until Gerald offered to do something for him first. The deal ended up being that Arnold and Gerald would do all of Mr. Bailey's Christmas shopping, and when they were done, he would give them access to the information on Mai Hyunh. As a kid, I remember watching that and thinking two things. One, that's going to take forever. And two, Mr. Bailey was a cruel man for making Arnold work for that information. Regardless, Arnold and Gerald got right to work hunting down those presents for Mr. Bailey, and in no time at all, they managed to get almost everything he had put on the list. The only thing that was missing was one familiar item. It was a pair of Nancy Spumoni's signature snow boots, which, as I said before, were already sold out all around the city. At this point, Arnold and Gerald returned to Mr. Bailey, who ultimately refused to help them after they failed to bring him the most crucial item on the entire list. As Arnold walked away from mean Mr. Bailey with his head in defeat, Gerald tried to cheer him up by explaining that just by going out of his way to look, Arnold already expressed the meaning of Christmas. Sometimes, it's not the gift itself that's the present, but the effort that went into getting the gift. Little did they realize as they walked away in defeat that Helga was eavesdropping. But what could she possibly do to help at this point? Interestingly enough, it looks like Helga could save Christmas by providing a joyous reunion for Mr. Wynn. As the episode continues, it shows Helga returning home to her father, Big Bob, and her mother, Miriam. Helga's mother immediately noticed that her daughter was in a sour mood. After seeing her beloved upset, Miriam decided to let Helga open a single present early. Helga was excited at first, but became even happier when she realized that she was holding on to a pair of Nancy Spumoni signature snow boots. According to Miriam, she stood in line for more than 18 hours to get the pair for Helga, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Helga was super excited to get the boots that she wanted so badly. She even ran outside, practically dancing in them. However, as she stood outside in the snow, she noticed the Christmas list that Arnold lost on the ground, and it presented her with a moral dilemma. After realizing that she now had the boots that Arnold needed in order to reunite Mr. Wynn with his daughter, Helga rushed over to Mr. Bailey to ask for his help. Now, we witnessed just how mean Mr. Bailey is though. He practically decided to still not help out, even after Helga offered to give him the snow boots that Arnold couldn't get. Thankfully, Helga was a quick thinker and managed to convince Mr. Bailey to help by explaining that if they found Mai for Arnold, it might make the kid believe in miracles again. Just like that, Mr. Bailey and Helga went back into the records office and began their search. Talk about a change of heart. The next morning was officially Christmas, and right away you could tell that Arnold was upset that he failed to get the perfect gift for Mr. Wynn. In fact, he wasn't able to get that poor man anything, but Mr. Wynn wasn't upset about it at all. He was very understanding without even knowing all the effort that Arnold put into trying to get him the perfect gift. Just as Arnold was about to tell him what he was trying to do, the doorbell rang. The room fell quiet as Phil walked to the door and answered it. Everyone was shocked, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't tear up as Mai Hyunh came walking through that door to reunite with her father. Arnold was baffled about how it could be possible when he failed at hunting her down. Gerald explained that it must have been some sort of Christmas miracle, or maybe a Christmas angel. Little did they know that the angel they were referring to was Helga. Honestly, this was one of the coolest things that Helga had ever done in the show. She managed to reunite a war-torn family that had been separated for over 20 years. Now that's one hell of a Christmas special. What do you think though? Was Arnold's Christmas one of the dark episodes that most people tend to forget about? Or was the sadness in the episode just a typical part of any Christmas special? Be sure to let me know in the comments below.